Thank goodness school's out.
Two students at the school outside of Denver went on a shooting rampage, killing 12 students and a teacher. Another 20
That's what started it all.
gunmen killed themselves in the library. At the time, it was the deadliest school shooting in the U.S. history. President
Sean's
Trump
having
was
a little hard
blasting
time
media
here.
and the Mueller report today. In a series of morning tweets, the president said the special counsel's report
Okay, they're listening.
delays possible by angry Democrats.
Clark and Casey.
We need to put the headsets on now.
Yeah. Anytime. I'm watching the clock here.
Oh, okay.
We got some time. We got about 2 minutes, almost 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through pretty much everything, and then
Yeah.
this last one, going forward, if this won't keep the range open, why don't you take over for me right there? Just basically, the first one is the fire danger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
People shooting,
Okay.
sure, and, possible
Yeah,
recognition.
because I was the one that talked to the BLM and the Fire Force Service and all those guys.
Yeah, so I'll toss that last one, that number 5 back to you.
Okay.
And,
And I'll just say, hey, well, I don't understand why.
yeah.
Oh, do you guys have a listening group or anything, or membership, Facebook followers or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Okay. Because we're streaming this live over YouTube as well.
Right.
So you can always link that feed to a website if you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll try not to go off on tangents.
Try to keep the F-bombs to a minute.
Yeah.
Hey, come
I
on, I
don't
was in
wanna-
the Army. I was an Army Ranger, you know?
I was in construction.
Phil, can you turn up the headphone level
I was in
a little
construction
bit?
for 35
Headphones?
years. It's pretty hard.
Is that good? They were just too hot in my ears.
Make it comfortable for you.
Okay.
Female zookeeper was in the same area as the tiger.
That's good.
Okay.
Around 9:30 this morning.
I think we need to have a ban on zoos.
Under an hour. And all tigers
On zoos?
On zoos, man, these animals are going crazy.
I haven't heard the story.
The tiger attacked a zookeeper.
Oh, yeah.
Now and then we had a panther, a couple of weeks ago, attacked a lady.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, we better regulate it.
we better regulate these
We should
zoos.
start locking those animals up or something.
Taking away their claws. Declawing them.
That's right.
It's,
Welcome and hope are the two key words to New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan's Easter message.
Cardinal Dolan says stats show there's still a large number of people who believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He hopes Easter will bring more of them into the church.
When you look out at what we Saturday and Easter Sunday morning, there are a lot of people who usually might not show up.
and this is why it's only a 45-minute show. When you add it all up.
By the way, every Sunday, so come home for dinner on Sunday, will you?
He says Easter is about hope. The resurrection of Jesus after a gruesome death should give us hope despite the evil and hate we see in the world. With the Cardinals, Scott Pringle, NBC News Radio, New York.
And National Park Week kicks off with free admission today.
Yay.
The National Park Service will grant free entry to all national parks Saturday from the Grand Canyon to Yellowstone and Yosemite. Fees for the parks usually cost up to $35 per vehicle. So,
Yeah, ridiculous.
Jim Forbes, NBC News Radio.
I got a great story on that.
From the Tim Downey Nissan and Murray Traffic Operations Center.
They're seeing a declination in wolves in Yellowstone.
Right.
It's all because of the park fees. I went down to Bryce to go hiking down there. 3 miles in, road's closed. They turn everyone back. $35 to drive in 3 miles and come back out.
By Jerry Sider Kia, Salt Lake
I have
City.
no idea.
Drive a new 2019
No
Kia
idea.
Sportage SUV with all-wheel drive from Jerry
It's
Sider
like,
Kia
oh, you
in
gotta
Salt
be
Lake
kidding.
for only $239 a month for 36
So
months
they
for
owe
qualified buyers.
a free
See
park
Jerry
day.
Sider Kia.
All pound 250 say keyword Kia for lease details.
It takes a village to raise a child, and in the case of youth suicide, it takes an entire community.
Wish they had taken it over.
I know, we should. Lee, come on, Lee. That's your last claim to fame.
It's not that hard to take money out of a booth
You're right.
and pay someone to clean it.
That's why I will always have my dad with me so I can use his Golden Age passport. Suckers!
I have only 5 words for you. From my cold, dead hands.
It's time for Gun Radio Utah. No apologies. A show dedicated to preserving and protecting your constitutional right to bear arms for your security and sport. Here's your host, well-known gun rights advocate and chairman of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, Clark Aposian.
And welcome to Gun Radio Utah on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Hopefully you're out enjoying. I start doing my yard work on Thursdays and Fridays just so I can have my Saturdays off to go shooting. And hopefully our listeners are out taking advantage of this beautiful day that we've got out there. But thanks for tuning in as well. We've got a great show today. Bill Pedersen, your host today, while Clark and Casey are driving through the roads of Oregon and Idaho on their way back. And I know they're listening to me because she's already sending me little text messages. And I said, you need to keep your eyes on the road here. Hey, did you hear before we came into the program today, I thought it was pretty funny. They were talking about wolves. Or actually, the park fees, not wolves, park fees. And so if you get a chance to take advantage of our beautiful parks that we have here in Utah as well, we got 5 of them, the most of any state in the nation, and the best parks, I think, in the nation. But I read also an article, that's what got me thinking about wolves, is how the wolf population is declining in Yellowstone. And I said it's because of the stupid park fees. But anyway, if you get that, you get that. I think they're leaving for other reasons. But that's why we've got wolves in Utah, but no one wants to admit that. We've got a great show today. We're going to talk next segment. We've got some guests in. We got Blake and Colonel Hayes with us to give us a PMAA update. And if you're not familiar with that, that's our gun range up Parley's Canyon there, right at the Mountain Dell exit. Can't miss it. If you hang a right as you get off and go right again as you're heading up the canyon, you'll drive right in through the front gates there. We're going to talk about YouTube, some favorite old-time shows, and what gets you excited. What do you do? What do you watch in order to get ready for the hunting season, prepping for the hunting draw that's coming up here with Utah DWR, what I call the Utah Legalized Lottery System. We have parimutuel betting here in Utah. No one knows it, but it is through our hunting process. Also, news in Houston, Texas. I don't know if you heard about this, and I'm sure there's going to be some more news coming out. In addition, where a young kid had a break-in at his residence, and they were trying to steal money, get money from him, and he instead of grabbing a wallet, grabbed an AK-47. Took out 3 of the 5, and 2 wounded of the 5. 3 were killed, and the police are calling it an act of self-defense. So were those naysayers out there that don't think that you need a rifle to protect yourself? I think this is the second one in Texas now. There was the church shooting earlier late last year, where a gentleman went after the bad guy with an AR-15 and took him out from causing more mayhem as well, too. Also, we're going to talk about introduction to shooting. That's one of my favorite topics. Always like to talk to people. I get a lot of questions. Hey, how do I get involved? What's the best way to go shooting? We've got some experts with Blake and Colonel Hayes here with us, and we've also got Doran, our videographer. Is that a good term? The videographer that's streaming our show live on YouTube. And you can go to Facebook and just go to Gun Radio Utah, click on the link there, and you can see what's happening live in studio as well. And we'll have Doran on the show talking about some things in regards to shooting and how we got started. And this would be a good segment as well for our listeners. If you've got a interesting story, or if you would like to share a story, how you got involved, what it took, or what you did to kind of get involved with shooting and what age. I'd like to also hear from our lady listeners as well. It's always interesting to get their take on it. We here in Utah are kind of smothered with youth organizations and Boy Scouts and all that, and a lot of kids get introduced into rifle shooting through merit badges or camps or outings that there is a little 22 plinker range that they can go play on as well too. We also have some great shooting activities out at Lee K, the ever famous turkey shoot. I remember doing that as a young kid. I was kind of the ringer for the team, so we made sure we at least got one turkey on that. So yeah, if you've got an interesting story or like to share a comment, 888-570-8010, 888-570-8010, and let Shauna know that you've got a little story to say on what got you excited or introduced or into the shooting realm. And I love to hear them because all the stories are uniquely different, and I always learn a lot from them as well. YouTube. I'll tell you, I have found another favorite show that I honestly totally forgot, and Colonel Hayes, you'd love this one. Rat Patrol.
Oh yeah, I used to
Rat
watch
Patrol.
that all the time.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I'm not dating myself because I was probably watching reruns of Rat Patrol when I was a kid, because I was born in 64, but I have found that on YouTube, and I'll tell you, I'm hooked, and it's like, this is freaking awesome. And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, look up Rat Patrol on YouTube, and it was quite the show, and I just been laughing. The other ones I like to watch is the old-time Westerns. There's a good over-the-air channel called Grit TV. I love the John Wayne channel and watching John Wayne movies. But one of my favorites, getting ready for this, I'm hyping myself up. I have a 50-50 chance of drawing out my elk tag this year, my premium elk tag, which allows me to hunt archery, muzzleloader, rifle, and late season rifle, 4 seasons to get this bull elk. And so I've been watching a lot of shows. And one of my favorite shows that I've just picked up on is a gentleman out of Montana. And I've talked with, or I've emailed this gentleman, Randy Newberg. I'm going to have him on the show one of these times. He is the most insightful individual that, he really enjoys hunting. He likes to get out himself, but what I like is he likes to help others get that fulfillment of their elk or their big game. And I just get excited, because I get excited because I haven't had a tag in years, one of these big tags. All my friends have. So when I go out and help them and guide for them, I know that feeling. It's just nice to see someone's success on getting that tag that fulfilled, that's taken them years and years to do. Randy Newberg, go check him out on YouTube. There's other great Hickok 45, one of my favorites. I'll tell you, if you want an introduction on a firearm or you're shopping for a firearm, go to Hickok 45, type in the firearm you're looking at or you're interested in, and he's done a review on it. And he'll do reviews on Gen 1s, Gen 2s, or Gen 3s, or, all kinds of different firearms, shotguns, rifles, pistols, revolvers, you name it, even some of the classic 45-70s. And you can really learn from these guys. It was great. A couple of years ago, Clark and I ran into Hickok 45 at SHOT Show. And I talked with him for quite some time. His son does all the videography for the show, and got to talk to Brian quite a bit as well too. But there's so much information that's out there that you can glean, and I'll tell you, it's exciting, it's fun. We never had that before. You know, we always had to wait for the Outdoor Life or the Field and Stream magazine or the NRA magazine to show up on a monthly basis. It was already 3-4 months old in information wise, and now we have it instantly at our fingertips. So anyway, take a look at those. If you've got something that you like, that you really enjoy watching, or you want to share. Sometimes people don't like to share that type of information because it's their little trade secret. But I kind of like to share that information because if it helps, you can learn from these people, these individuals. I mean, there's folks that will just even focus on 22 pistol or rifle shooting, and there's a lot of competition out there with 22 rifle. Here with the Appleseed Project, they've got an event coming up in May. That will be, you can go out and take kids, youth, girls, men, boys, anything you want, and have an enjoyable time shooting. Hey, when we come back, we've got Blake and Colonel Hayes here with us. We're going to talk about the PMAA range. You're listening to Gun Radio Utah.
All week, it's the $1,000 Spring Fling Cash Giveaway.
I record all the old episodes of Combat. That was my
favorite show. Combat is a great one, too. I mean, Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
I mean, I love those, And,
that's right, with Festus.
Yeah. There's just so many of them. And it's just, people are now putting these classics back on YouTube, and it's like, oh man, you just relive your childhood or your younger years and enjoy it. So we've got about 2.5 minutes right now, it looks like, before we come back in.
I'm from West Virginia originally. My great grandmother was up on a hill all by herself on the old homestead, and these two guys got out of prison. They got let out. They tried Robert, and their state was like 2 miles.
Oh, really?
Her decision was, okay, if I use a loaded 30-06 or 12 gauge or 22. I used to go up to look at the holes in the screen door.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, she hit this guy 3 times, and the other guy ran away. They finally got him. They went back to prison.
Oh, my
later,
God.
My uncle finally.
Holy cow.
Oh, yeah. She's an old pioneer type. She ran the post office in later years. And she probably had money in her mattress. Probably,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what, there wasn't banks back then. No one trusted banks, because they weren't insured back in the day.
She was
Wow. Wow.
Well, my cousin back there killed someone. He lived in the back of he inherited his dad's gun.
If your party needs some racing, spinning, winning, zipping, climbing, golfing, bowling, sporting, or nonstop fun, head to Allegiant Nonstop. Because the only thing that never stops
It always scares me when people, I still laugh on how they can even rob these gun shops, and they still do.
I know.
They still do. And of course, it's always an inside job because they know how to get into these things. But it scares me to think there's that many firearms or weapons that are out there that you just.
I just got back from hunting down in Texas unsuccessfully, but it was neat. Axis, I was limited.
Oh, Axis deer?
Axis deer. I saw some, but I was on a private ranch. Well, it wasn't a private, it was his uncle's and limits on, yeah.
Wow.
Only big ones. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I'd love to get down there on a hog hunt. I really want to do some.
I didn't see one. His dad was with us and got 2 of them, and I didn't.
Oh,
never see
really?
one, but I saw
Hey, Bill, invite our YouTube people to tell us they're watching.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
In fact, I have it going here. Okay, here we go.
Gun Radio Utah with Clark Aposhin on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio 105.9 KNRS. Listen and you'll know.
And welcome back, Gun Radio Utah. Bill Pedersen here, sitting in the captain's chair while Clark and Casey are out and about. They're on their way home. I hope so. I got a couple of little furry animals that I'm taking care of for them, or my daughter is. And it's driving my dogs nuts. So anyway, glad to have you here. Bill Pedersen, Director of Utah Shooting Sports Council. We appreciate Doran doing our video production here. in studio here. And if you can, go check us out on Facebook. There's a great link. Go to Gun Radio Utah. You can check us out live on YouTube and just say hi. Let us know that you're there. Glenn Partial, welcome to the show. And now you can kind of see what goes on behind the scenes here at Gun Radio Utah. It actually gets quite entertaining. We get talking about a whole bunch of sidebar items, all gun related. That's the fun part of it all. So, but hey, we'd like to welcome in studio Blake and Colonel Hayes with us. These guys have been in before. We've been talking about PMAA, the things that are going on up there. We rallied the troops. We went storming into City Hall and raised ruckus. No, we didn't raise ruckus, but we did have a good showing, and we meant to let the city council members know we're serious. But some things have changed. Blake, get us up to date. Give us info on what's going on, where we're at today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bill. One of the first things we wanted to do was just kind of let some of the listeners know about the range. They might not even know.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with PMAA,
Right.
It's good to let people know. A lot of people didn't know about this range because it's kind of tucked away, but it's a nice range.
Yeah, no, it's a really, really awesome range, and it's just such a neat facility, and it's just 4 miles up Parley's Canyon, right out of Salt Lake, exit 134 at the Mountain Dell Golf Course exit there, or the East Canyon exit. Yeah, so, it's a neat facility. It's got a 100-yard rifle range. We've got shotgun 5-stand, private training ranges. We're one of the only long-range shooting facilities in northern Utah. We have a range that goes out to 800 yards, and boy, it's just a real gem up there. And a lot of people don't even know it's up there.
Right. Well, and a lot of people that have experienced it years and years ago just probably thought of it as a simple pistol rifle range. But there's even trap and skeet up there as well too.
Yeah, no, and we've got a full archery range, 3D archery range as well now too.
That's awesome.
Although it's recovering from a bear attack last fall, but we hope to get that back up and running. But anyways, yeah, the range has been there for 50 years. It was started back in 1969, I believe, and Salt Lake City Public Utilities owns the property. And back in 1969, it was leased to the PMAA, and a lot of people don't really know who that is. To make a long story short, they are a nonprofit private organization. They are not part of the police department. They are just
as some would say.
A lot would assume that they are, but they are not. They are just a nonprofit private organization. So one of the problems that we've had up there is they've done a really poor job of managing the property. The property is very run down, and there's this whole thing about lead remediation, and lead remediation per EPA standards should be remediated from shooting ranges every 3 to 5 years. And the lead remediation has never been done on that piece of property. So we're talking 50 years plus of lead sitting in the hills up there.
So there's two parts to that. There's remediation and reclamation. There's a little difference between the two, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So if a shooting range stays in operation, it just needs to be remediated of most of the lead. There's an actual percentage that's involved with it. It's not inexpensive, but it's not really crazy numbers. We've hired 2 different reclamation companies to come in and give us bids of what it's going to cost for the last 50 years of cleanup that the PMAA has ignored. And so we've got those figures, and it's not overwhelming. But here's the deal: if this public range closes, then the PMAA and the city are responsible for reclamation, which means turning that property back to pristine state. You're talking about getting every number 8 shotgun pellet out of the scrub oak that's up on a mountain. You could be in the millions of dollars, and nobody wants to see that happen. I'm sure the city doesn't, and our nonprofit we set up to try and try and help them with this would take that off of their hands.
So, so the range was scheduled to shut down on March 4th this year. Where are we at with that? What happened after our meetings with the city?
So yeah, at the meeting there with the city, you were there and you heard Patrick Leary stand up, and he committed to keeping the range open, status quo. Those were his words,
right?
And they were the words of Mayor Biskupski. She committed to keeping the range open, status quo. So their way of doing that was to extend a 1-year lease with the PMAA. The same people that have run the place down over the past 50 years, and that probably was not the best way to keep it open, but that's what they've done. And so here's where the problem is with that, is the status quo is not status quo. We're barely even open right now. What they've done is the PMAA has come in, presumably as a way of punishing us, I guess, and they've said that the range can no longer be run by anybody other than the range master who lives on the property.
Okay.
We have multiple people that are NRA range officers that have been running the range and helping out, and now as a way of punishing the range master, they're saying, nope, you can't have any help anymore. They've shut us down to only 3 days a week for the public, and that's a big problem there as well.
3 days?
3 days a week. It's hard to run a range and make money for.
Yeah, what's it? So 3 days. What's it being used for the other 4?
Nothing right now. The police, if they decide to show up, but literally.
But that's on a ad hoc type schedule.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really make any sense. But the problem with what they've done here too is they've also taken away all of the private training facility. So we've got a lot of people who use the private training. I'll give you one, like U of U holds classes up there on Thursday nights. They just had to cancel all of their classes and mess around with tuition and move their stuff off of the site because they are not considered law enforcement, so they can't use the range on a Thursday night. Hogle Zoo can no longer use our range because they're not law enforcement and they train during the week. They're only allowed to use it during the weekends, and that's not when they need it. They need it during the weekdays. So basically what they've done, or what the PMAA has done, is they've basically just kind of shut the range down. They've taken away the long-range shooting. They've told any of the private people up there who use the range for training, they need to get their stuff off the property immediately. So what that does is that eliminates all the people who use it for private training because they can't haul their gear up every time they need to train a group of people. It's just too much stuff.
So when you say the private groups, help describe some of those private groups that have their facilities up there. Because I know I've done some training up there as well with groups, and I'm sure there's equipment that we were using that was probably donated or as part of these private groups.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'll give you an example. The University of Utah is one I told you. They stored their gear there. They were told to get it off the property, and they can no longer use the range because they're not considered law enforcement. So that's one. There's another group up there, the Polite Society, who's been a big help with us the whole way through this, and they were forced to remove all of their stuff as well. And so, it's just been a real shame. And there's no reason for it other than vengeance, the way we see it. But what it's done right now is they've driven the range master to the point where he's going to have to leave. He can't make a living anymore off of 3 days a week, and all the private training's gone. So they've effectively shut down the range. And when we talked, when the PMAA has basically said that, and they said it like this, I guess the range is going to have to shut down if the range master leaves. And that was the tone. So it's pretty clear that they're actually trying to force it into a shutdown by making it miserable up there.
Okay, I'm just kind of baffled here. I've got some other thoughts here. So if they've extended the lease 1 year, are they going to have meetings? Are they going to have conversations? Are they going to try to figure this out in the meantime? Or is this an interim? I mean, can this lease be shortened if there was another resolution that was brought in?
Yeah, so the reason for the 1 year extension was to allow time to study the options of what to do with this property. At least that was their explanation of it. We, working with the city, we've set up a meeting on April 29th, and we're very prepared with that meeting. A couple of the requests of the city was to show them that we could get fire insurance. They told us that the PMA has tried and they absolutely could not get fire insurance. Well, we've got fire insurance right now, and it covers way more than we would ever need up there. And it was difficult, but we were able to do that. The other thing they had was environmental concerns, and they wanted to see remediation stuff. And we've hired 2 remediation companies who have given us quotes to clean up the last 50 years of remediation,
right?
And to set up a program to make sure it gets done on a regular basis in the future, which is going to benefit the city for sure.
Wow, I'm just kind of in awe because I know from our last meeting that we had with the city where we invited all of our membership, the Utah Shooting Sports Council members and anyone, all of our listeners to attend. And we have people coming in from Davis County, from Summit County, from Salt Lake County, all over the place. And it was great because the word was, we're going to keep this open. We're going to keep it at status quo. That was the mayor's initiative to do this. And now I'm like going, holy cow, it's like we've gone 10 steps back now. And now we know we've got a mayor that's not going to go for re-election. So in my mind, she's checked out. Okay. But this is just kind of interesting. Now, we've only covered half of what we want to cover, and we got a hard stop here coming up. But you guys mind hanging over because I want to get through this because I want to understand the next steps, what we can do, who we should be calling, who we should be emailing, what meetings we should be attending, because this is really, I'm not shocked, but I'm kind of stunned. I'm kind of like a deer in headlights right now. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, city. Salt Lake City, you got to be kidding me. And also you learned that some of these people, these utilities groups, don't even know that they are responsible for this property, and you had to open some eyes. We'll cover that as well. You're listening to Gun Radio Utah, and we will be right back and talking more about PMAA when we get back.
For more information about contests on this station,
Yeah, I may use the term counterintuitive. I can't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
this.
No, and jump in anytime that you want.
Yeah,
too.
I'm going to let him finish, and then I'll do the end. And I'll
Well, you know what?
hit the part.
Because
about
we're
the
only
meeting.
halfway through this.
Hit the meeting.
So this is good. This is really good. We'll come back in. We'll talk about the proposal. I'll summarize where we're at on this coming into the show.
I guess they think it's just going to go away. But it's not. The EPA thing don't go away.
No, exactly.
Did we thoroughly skewer the PMAA there?
Discover alert
Well,
soup. They find your social
at
security
least you
number
didn't
on
say
any
what they
one
were
of
police
thousands
mutual
of
aid
risky
associations. So,
websites.
yeah.
It's just another
Well, you don't want to say that because
Yeah.
they assume it's part of the police department, and they absolutely are 100% not. And that's why we can't understand. We're setting up a nonprofit, private organization that's insured. We're
But
already
now they're forcing the police are the only ones that can use it, but they're not even part of
They
it.
don't even.
yeah. It's just
Hey, look, the city and PMAA should be reaching out to us. Hey, let's get this done.
Exactly.
Here.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, good point. We've got 2 minutes till we're back in. So.
It gets tiresome. You know? It's just like
Oh,
dealing
welcome
with
to our world.
politicians. You know.
Yeah, welcome our way. It never ends.
yeah,
It never ends. We just go from one battle to another.
yeah. No,
You
it's
And
ridiculous.
it's sometimes hard because this is where we have to rely on our membership as well to kind of be an extension of the Utah Shooting Sports Council to kind of get us this information, to be actively involved. This is why we ask for participation because
And you're right. The mayor may not give a shit now. She's not really.
I can only imagine what the NRA has to go through.
Yeah.
What battles do you choose, you know?
I mean, but who do we deal with if the meeting
Well,
on the 29th
you guys ought to
fails?
write an op-ed to the Trib.
If the
I'm
thing on the
serious.
29th fails, I mean, I don't.
And I
know
bet
where
they
it
don't
goes.
publish it. But I beg to ask why they don't.
We had a big TV interview set up this week
Well, we got
with,
Channel 5.
with KUTV and
Okay.
Brian Malahy, but we told him to hold off
Until the meeting.
we want to
But
hit
Till
that
you get back.
meeting first before we do the nuclear option. You know, the reporters.
We got dead air. We have 50 seconds here.
It's just baffling to me that.
I'm gonna.
What else are they gonna do with the range? Make a water park for $3 million? You know, I don't know. Have to be open.
I just can't. I mean, if they shut the whole thing down, they'll probably tear the house down and everything else. 30 seconds coming in. And dead air. Hope we have intro coming in.
A 10-minute commute to Silicon Slopes? Awesome. Visit wildflowerutah.com.
There are no apologies on this show. Welcome back to Gun Radio Utah with Clark Kaposian on Talk Radio 105.9 KNRS. Listen, and you'll know.
Hey, welcome back, Gun Radio Utah. Bill Pedersen sitting in the captain's chair where Clark would normally be. We decided to give him and Casey some time off. I don't think we decided. I think he just took it. And but yeah, we've been talking in the last segment about the PMAA range up the Hendrickson range up in Parley's Canyon. We've got Blake and Colonel Hayes. Now, your organization is named
The Mountain Dell Shooting and Archery.
The Mountain Dell Shooting and Archery. That's a really good name, and that should be an easy one for me to remember because it does include shooting and it does include archery, and it's up there at Mountain Dell. But we've been talking about the cities waffling back and forth, and who knows what they're going to do in regards to this. They've extended a lease to the PMAA range. They've shut public users out in any private group, universities, which that really surprised me. I'll need to talk to the U. But also organizations like Hogle Zoo and some other groups and private groups, Cabela's, I'm sure it's some concealed carry classes and training classes. And then you got the Polite Society. I've been up there and shot with those guys before. That's awesome as heck to do. And they've shut down the 800-yard range, rifle range. So what have they left? What's left to shoot up there?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. We've got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday shooting paper targets from 25 to 100 yards, and that's really it. You know, in the long range thing, once again, I think all these restrictions are just out of vengeance and spite, or trying to get us to close down.
To throw in the towel.
Right.
Just say we're done.
Yeah, there's 6 feet of snow up the canyon. There's no risk of fire danger.
Right. So your proposal to the city is, as we move forward, you've got a meeting on the 29th, which I plan on attending. And we need to make sure some of our other listeners, if you want to attend, this is on the 29th, 1 p.m. at City Hall. I'm sure a room number will be assigned here as we get closer if it gets too big.
Yeah, we'll update you on the location. We're not 100% sure of the location. We don't know.
Okay.
Because we're meeting with the Public Utilities Director, Laura Briefer, and the city attorney. It will be at a choice of their location. So I don't know if it's going to be City Hall, but we'll
get the information out to our listeners and to those that follow us on Facebook, and also our USSC members as well through an alert. So the proposal you've got, you want to take this over. You want to kind of say, hey, we can do it better, we can do it cheaper, and we can do it.
Yeah, exactly. We have a nonprofit set up. It's an LLC. It's ready to go. We have insurance in place. We have lead remediation in place. Things that have never been done in the past. we really have some big plans. This is the city's property; they own it, and we're willing to volunteer to make this property 1,000,000 times better than it is right now. We're going to take 100% of the money. Everyone will be unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
All of the money the range makes is going to go back into the property to upgrade it and make it a really nice facility that law enforcement needs. Law enforcement that uses it right now, they have to beg, borrow, and steal for a target stand. It's really difficult and run down the way it is right now. And we've got all the keys.
Well, I can't understand why the city would, if a big user of the range is law enforcement, I can't see why they wouldn't want an organization like yours to go in there to take over, clean it up, and provide the tools necessary to, help our law enforcement be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it. It really is a no-brainer. We're willing to volunteer our time. We'll be insured. No liability on the city, and we're talking. It's not just SLPD that occasionally uses this. We have the FBI, we have DEA, we have so many different SWAT teams that use this, and basically, if this shuts down, the city's just saying that they just don't care.
They don't care. Can I ask a hard question?
Go ahead.
Why do you think they want to shut it down? What's the underlining undertone?
We're baffled by that. We don't know. We don't know if it's an anti-gun thing. We don't know if it's an environmental thing. We just don't know. But one thing that cities should not be against is anti-police and law enforcement. They need this range open.
Right.
They can be all anti-gun and they can be pro-environmental and all that, but they shouldn't be for shutting down a range that police desperately need.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up is that no matter if the range stays open with whomever, we just want the range to stay open. But the city is responsible for that lead remediation, them and PMAA. That is not going to go away. So it's counterintuitive to me why PMAA and the city have not reached out to us and say, hey, let's get you guys going here. Let's help you out. Let's negotiate in good faith, which they haven't done. They didn't do it for months. So, and thank all the public for showing up. The 100 people that showed up in the snowstorm for the city council meeting, and we did.
And we're willing as an organization of the Utah Shooting Sports Council, and I can almost say this for all the directors. I mean, we'll get another alert out, and if we need to go down and do a protest on City Hall and say this range needs to stay open, I have no problem. I have no problem with that at all. There's a lot of other great groups and organizations. Go Utah that's here. We've got a Polite Society. I mean, anyone will go down there and sit on the doorsteps there at City Hall and say, this range needs to stay open. And what's your problem? How come you're telling us one day you're saying, yes, this is a great deal, we're going to do it. We've got a group that's coming in saying, yes, we'll take it over and we can fund this whole entire thing and keep the city whole. It's not going to cost the city a dime, no liability. And it baffles me. That's why I say that I kind of lean to, okay, and I'm really concerned because we've got a mayor in Salt Lake City now that she's already said, hey, I'm out, not going to run again. And, you kind of get the lame duck of a mayor that sits in there and just, kind of coasts until the end of her term. So we've got the meetings scheduled on April 19th. What else can...
29th.
29th. 19th, that was yesterday. Yeah, that was another event that took place yesterday, years and years ago. But what can our listeners do at this time?
So, yeah, we're going to go to this meeting. And we're going to be prepared, like we said. We have the request that the city wanted with the insurance and the lead remediation and future cleanup plans. But what we want to do is if we can't get some rock solid answers from the city of whether they're willing to go forward with us, we really need to go and make some noise and make it known that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of us that need this range to stay open, and we could use your help with that.
It's important to Utah. this range is
Yeah.
not just important to the city. It's all of Utah and
Yeah.
shooting sports and kids and businesses and police training and all the above. And you turn 10,000 shooters loose on public lands, there'll be a hell of a lot more fires than there are now. And I've got a son-in-law that does wildland firefighting.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. We ran into this down in Utah County on West Mountain. Great shooting area down there, and they came in and, accusations went flying, so they shut the whole area down, and they said, well, we're going to have all these hearings and blah, 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 and it was funny because, as they're presenting their argument, I think it was at a golf course we were at, it was kind of I kind of walked out as I felt insulted by a lot of the information because there's a lot of law enforcement there just to keep the unrulies out. And I'm like, what's the message? What are you trying to say here? And we didn't speak loud enough. And that was just public land, it's a quilt work of Sitla and private and all this. I mean, if you go look on your Onyx maps and look at West Mountain, you go, who the heck thought of this? But it's a mess. But we lost that. We lost Holiday Gun Club for one reason or another as well, too. And the Hendrickson Range is an awesome range. It's close. It attracts a lot of people. And to be honest, if I go shooting, I'd rather be up there than in the West Desert. It's more comfortable. It's got facilities. It's got cover. It's nice. You're in the mountains.
And I think a lot of us like to shoot out in the desert, but I think
we do.
We're smart
But it's
enough
hot.
to know when there's extreme fire danger, we don't do it.
Exactly.
But we go to a controlled place.
Exactly.
And we're going to improve
Exactly.
that if we take over management of the range.
Awesome. Well, we're going to leave this in your hands. We're going to stay on top of this. You're going to keep us updated, Blake, and we'll get you back on the show, both of you, as we get more information from our meeting on the 29th, and then we can, put some things together and call to actions as needed. But we greatly appreciate you coming in and talking about the dog and pony show that's going on with Salt Lake City and what they've pulled on us now, and we appreciate the great work that you guys are doing for our shooters and our listeners here in Utah. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to keep these guys over as well, because I'm sure Colonel Hayes has some great stories of what got you excited, what got you interested in shooting, who's your mentor, who is that individual that took you out shooting and you said, that was the greatest thing I've ever done, and I'll still keep doing it. You can call in at 888-570-8010. That's 888-570-8010, and we'll be right back.
I know. Yeah, we probably only have 5 minutes, too.
I didn't do the F-bomb, but I said hell or something.
Oh, that's fine.
I think
I've said son of a bitch a lot of times.
I think you're good.
So,
Stop leaving it to someone else to invest in our future.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised that you didn't do. No, you did good.
Doing great. When you come back, you'll have just a few seconds over 5 minutes.
Oh,
till
yeah.
the music starts.
Just what I thought. Illinois, you students call me.
Over to that baby at PMAA. He would have a stroke on site.
Yeah, well, we're not, the next time we're on, it's
Just as
29th, don't go well.
We'll skewer
No more print.
Hey,
We'll skewer them.
yeah.
OTAclass.com right now and sign up for a free 3-hour seminar and acquire the skills to help you live the life you've always wanted. Go to OTAclass.com and sign up now. That's OTA.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Everything all across. You got the remediation
Yeah.
stuff.
Hey, this is Dan
And I
Laptop
drug the TMA through the dirt road.
I made sure that I hit it.
Okay.
You already hit it. And hey, the city's on the hook here next day.
Okay, Robert, I will do that. I'll let Blake know. I'll give him your number.
You gotta go to the city council.
Yeah, no, but you bring up a really good point. I think that's a good one. He might be aware of that, he might not. Okay, awesome. Cool, thanks, appreciate it. Bye. That was one of our listeners. He runs the Magna Gun Club. He says, screw reclamation. He goes, you should be getting paid for that much lead. He goes, we've never had to pay for reclamation. they pay us.
Yeah, but they hadn't done it for 50 years.
I know,
We
so
don't
that's
know.
that's money in your pocket.
We don't know.
That's what he's saying. I'll give you his number.
Yeah, the reclamation companies we've talked to said it could actually break even.
Yeah,
But
he's saying, he says he does his every 3 to 5.
yeah,
They get paid on it.
yeah.
So we got a
3 years
comment
of lead.
on YouTube. Salt Lake City law enforcement definitely needs some training. After the big shootout, was it 250 rounds fired and 6 hits?
Absolutely.
Did you hear about that?
No,
Yeah.
it's going.
Okay, are we coming back in or are we dead air?
Do you know why there was
John, are
250
we
rounds
coming in or are we
fired?
dead air?
Every time an officer
Oh,
pulls
there
the
we go.
trigger, 3 weeks paid vacation.
Never mind.
They do. They do.
That's a lot of paid vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, 250 rounds, 6. I heard 6 bullets hit the guy.
Well, a lot of them weren't even aimed because, like I
I know.
said, when
you saw stuff falling off from the
when they
ceiling.
pull the trigger, they get 3 weeks paid vacation. Whether they no matter what happens, while they investigate. So if you're part of the shooting and you pull the trigger one time, you get 3 weeks off pay. And so that was a theory I've talked to a lot of other law enforcement. They're like, yeah, everybody caught in on that really good, you know, and everyone's out.
We got 1 minute. That's funny. Yeah, I guess that's
And
true.
that's not my theory. That came from other.
No, that's true. It's true.
It came from other cops. It's like, yeah, the guy's dead. Here, a couple more. Boom, boom. I'm going to Vegas.
Yeah, I shot. So I got 3 weeks paid vacation. Yeah, because, that's
They said
funny.
especially when it's a really super justifiable one, there's not going to be any argument.
Yeah, okay, coming in. This is my music. And welcome back to Gun Radio Utah, rocking and rolling here on KNRS Radio with Rush. One of my favorite bands in high school. Grew up with Rush. And having fun here in the studios. And we were just talking a little off air. One of our YouTube listeners or watchers says, yeah, we need to have the PMAA range up there. Some law enforcement still need to do some practicing up there. And that's, I'm sure it was in regards to the big shootout they had on State Street, with 250 plus rounds of ammunition and 3 weeks vacation for 25 law enforcement people. We say that and jokingly as well. And if you're in law enforcement, you know exactly why. But welcome back to the show. And we're coming back and we want to talk about a little bit about what got you involved in shooting? And you call in. It looks like we might have one. Maybe nope. I thought we had a person online. But if you've got a story, I'm going to share some things with you. And I'm kind of interested in Colonel Hayes. Mm-hmm. You served how many years in the military, in the Army?
I was active Army for 30 years. And
30 years.
Moved 16 times, and then I did 10 with the Air Force.
10 with the Air Force.
As a civilian with the Air Force.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And as a military cadet going into the military, I mean, what was your first experience shooting or having someone take you out shooting at an early age?
Gramp in
Grandpa.
West by God, Virginia. Okay.
Okay.
When I was 5 or 6 years old, that's what you do off the back porch. So put a target up against the old barn and 22 have at it. So and go out in the farm and shoot. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting. I kind of grew up with a lot of different families as a kid, and one of my favorite foster families that I was with took me out rabbit hunting, took me out shooting. I shot my first .243 lever action Winchester, awesome rifle. I thought that thing was the bomb. I mean, that was what I wanted to carry. Shot my first Colt 45 too, at 11 years of age, and it was almost a squib load that came and literally bounced back and landed at our feet. It was pretty interesting. And then as I was growing up, I never shot a shotgun. And one of the families I was living with in Sandy up on Dimple Dell, you haven't shot a shotgun, and I was reloading shotgun shells in the back basement all day long, and he goes, well, let's go take you on the back hill. This is back when it was all alfalfa fields and everything, and they were just, one of the developments was going on up there, but shot my first shotgun. We had skunks, got to take care of the skunk problems and all that, but it was a lot of fun. Blake, you're a big time shooter, I know, because you're my gunsmith. What got you into shooting, and at what age?
Yeah, I think the Boy Scouts was probably one of the first experiences. Pretty much if you're in the Scouts for any amount of time, you learn how to shoot a .22, and then it kind of progresses from there to shotguns and
kind of grow on you.
Once I learned I could hit a clay pigeon out of the air with a shotgun, I was hooked from that point on. And boy, I've just never stopped. I've spent a lot of time busting birds out of the air ever since
awesome.
I did it that first time.
Well, I'm probably one of the youngest hunter education graduates in Utah. I took mine when I was 10.
Oh, wow.
And this was back in the 1974, and that was unheard of. I mean, you couldn't do it until you were 12, but I wanted it so bad. Talked the instructor into it, and he says, okay, if you can shoot, I'd rather teach you young now than, have an accident later. And so we're up there at the Layton Range there up above, what's that highway above there? I think it's still there, the Layton City Range. And that's where I did my little .22 squirrel shooting, and it was a lot of fun, and I'll tell our listeners, I mean, this is the time. If you got someone that's interested in going out shooting, there's a lot of places you can get out to. Take a friend out. Call someone. If you don't have a gun or you don't own a gun, there's someone in your family that does, and there's someone that would love to take you out. Ask uncles, aunts, grandpas, cousins, grandmas even. We were talking about grandma shooting off the porch. But take them out shooting, have a great time, and you can learn something out of this. And you never know. It might put you into a career, might put you into some volunteer organizations that you never thought of, might even inspire you to help serve in our military, which we always appreciate. So appreciate you guys coming in. Doran, thank you so much for running the cameras, and all of our listeners and video watchers out there. Have a great, safe Easter weekend, and we'll be back next week. Clark will be in studio as well, and we will have another exciting